Sane's title fight coming up shortly, but now we look at yet another major boxing comeback, one this time shrouded in mystery and intrigue involving the British Boxing Board of Control and in particular Dr. Adrian Whiteson, the medical officer, one of the sport's top promoters and managers, Frank Warren, and the man in the middle of it all, Terry Marsh, the Basildon fireman who climbed to the very top of the boxing ladder and finally had to give up both careers in September '87, apparently because of epilepsy. Marsh is now planning a ring return exactly 2 years to the day after his sensational defeat of Joe Manley to land the world light welterweight title. Just one gutsy and successful defence followed against Akio Kameda before the boxing world, and his manager Frank Warren in particular, was stunned by tabloid revelations that he was to quit. Only hours after signing a big contract for his next fight, Marsh said his career was over, claiming a doctor had diagnosed him as an epileptic. Terry, you said 16 months ago you weren't going to fight again because of your epilepsy. Now you say you don't have epilepsy, it was chocolate binges that made you black out, and you are going to fight again. Can we really take you seriously?
Well, when you say that I had epilepsy, what in fact happened was a consultant diagnosed epilepsy. Things have since happened, and to alter that original diagnosis, and now a top eminence consultant, in fact the best in the world, has said that I haven't got epilepsy. So from that point of view, I'm just following the advice of doctors, and having took their advice, I've considered making a comeback, not only as a boxer, but as a promoter. I intend promoting my own fight on March the 4th, and that's the situation with it, really.
I'm a bit sad with what's going on here. I just, to be quite honest, I don't understand what is going on with him. You know, he supposedly has epilepsy, then he's suffering from blackouts. Now he says it's because he's eating too many Mars bars. You know, I just can't make out what's going through his mind.
The Terry Marsh situation, as far as we're concerned, is that we're still waiting either for him to have a specific test that we've requested or to get sight of the test if it has in fact been done. And this is what we call a prolonged glucose tolerance test. And that was ordered because Terry Marsh denies that he's had epilepsy, and he says that this is as a result of gorging with Mars bars and a few other things, having a very high sugar level, which then drops dramatically and causes him to fall over and almost have a fit. So we've said to him, if that's the case, we can possibly prove it by doing this particular test, and we'll see what happens when it arrives.
The test, in fact, the test they want me to take, I have taken, the results of which I do not know.
You have definitely taken that test?
That's the case. However...
under their supervision?
Not under their supervision, but by doctor's supervision. It's called a prolonged glucose tolerance test. I've had the test, but I've actually sought the advice of a nutritionist, and I've also been told that the test would not be conclusive one way or the other, which is contrary to what I was told by the Board of Control's medical people. And also the doctors have actually given me the all clear to fight, would stick by their diagnosis irrelevant of this prolonged glucose tolerance test. So it can be an indication, but it isn't conclusive in any way, shape or form.
We actually asked Terry to appear in front of a particular doctor. We arranged that test Monday week ago. Terry turned up, but in fact declined the test. It is quite possible that someone can have epileptic attacks, but I think up to 20% of the population can have attacks of epilepsy without having any changes either in a brain tracing, a CAT scan or anything else.
And they can be cured?
They can't be cured, they can be treated, and at times they may not need any form of medication. It is quite possible that Terry, in living a normal life, not putting himself under any stress or strain dietary-wise, can in fact never have another attack. But if he puts himself under the strain of weight loss and the strain of boxing, where after all punches are aimed at the head, and boxing is a dangerous sport, we're trying to keep it safe, but it is dangerous, then it's possible that that epileptic state could be triggered off again. And from our point of view, that would be too late.
It's still very difficult to understand how this story came about in the first place. You know, it seems a little bit like media manipulation, because there were question marks over the whole thing when suddenly out of the blue you retired, and the epilepsy situation came along that no one knew about, including your manager, whether you agree with that or not. The day after you'd signed a huge contract for your next fight, it goes quiet, comparatively, for 16 months, and now here you are, back again, possibly going for a European title fight and a whole new medical condition has been brought into it.
Yeah.
It is, to say the least, fishy.
So what are you suggesting, Nick?
Well, we're suggesting that one
Say it,
story or
please.
the other couldn't have been true.
Well, both stories are true. I see a consultant who diagnosed the epilepsy. Since then, other things have come to light, i.e., for example, the 3 occasions I passed out. I went to the doctor and I told him and explained them in isolation. However, it was my brother who pointed out the 3 times that I passed out came on particular dates, 3 to 4 weeks after particular title fights, i.e. the 2 world title fights I had and a vacant European title fight. It then made me think about whether it was due to my post-fight dietary indiscretions, as they're the words used by the consultant and the nutritionist. So, having seen him about that, and the fact that there's been no problem ever since, I was on medication for which I took for 6 weeks, and quite miraculously, I decided to go against it, which I'm very grateful for. Otherwise, I would have still been taking the medication and thinking that the tablets are working. But that isn't the case, and the fact that I've gone this such a long period of time suggests that, you know, the original diagnosis was wrong. But having said that, in the defence of the consultant, for the best possible reasons.
I'm still baffled, I have to be honest, why you signed a contract for a fight at the same time as you were telling the world through a newspaper and not through your manager that you were packing in.
Yeah.
And had epilepsy.
Yeah. Well, the situation, you're saying I never told my manager and I signed a contract. Well, I can't comment on that. The reason being is if I comment on that, then it means I agree with what you said.
So you're saying you didn't sign a contract and you had told your manager?
I told everybody who needed to know.
He never told me about it, nor did he tell me that he was suffering from blackouts.
Well, he would dispute what you said there. You said he never told you about it. He says that you knew about it at the time that you were signing the contract, or he was signing the contract for the next fight.
Well, first of all, to answer that, is that I just sued the Sun and was paid £40,000 out of court settlement over that inference, and also had sued the Daily Express magazine for the same thing. Again, they reached an out of court settlement. If he is saying that, and he said that to you, then I will be issuing a writ against him in the morning.
I'd always said that I'd have one defence and then retire. I'd made it public knowledge to everybody. Whatever I say, I always mean. Now, whether people don't take me seriously or choose to disbelieve me, well, that is their problem, and if it turns out it could be their mistake.
Yeah, but did you sign the contract saying you were going to fight again, knowing that you wouldn't?
I signed the contract. This is funny, this is, because I had a word with Frank yesterday. We agreed to disagree, but everything that has been made up is going to be broken apart again. But I signed the contract knowing that I wasn't going to fight. However, Frank...
You did. You signed a contract knowing that you weren't going to fight again.
When this is edited, incidentally, I assume that the rest of it won't be cut off. I spoke to Frank, telling him my intentions of not fighting again, but for all intents and purposes, he said, well, go through the rigmarole of the contract, possibly thinking that, or hoping from his point of view, there may have been a change of heart.
That is a nonsense. I signed for the fight, which the people who I signed with, the Duva brothers, the Duva family, who managed Warren, could sue me for damages, or could have sued me for damages. We had a legally binding agreement. Now, that fight don't take place, they can sue me. As far as Terry Marsh is concerned, prior to every world title fight, every boxer has to have a series of tests. Part of those tests are EEGs, and part of those tests, you have to declare whether you are suffering from epileptic fits, blackouts, as he's supposed to have done in the fight prior to that, and it would come up if he was suffering. So how could anybody sign a contract knowing that a boxer would have to go through all those tests?
What does this do for the credibility of boxing?
Boxing,
I mean, people who are pro-boxing and people who are viciously anti-boxing.
Boxing has no credibility. Boxing's credibility went out the window years ago. Boxing is a sport at the moment where everybody is fighting for themselves, promoters, managers, boxing board of control, all fighting for survival, and the sport is going under.
Has he cooperated as far as you're concerned?
I think he's reluctant to do so. Why? I've no idea. I'm not interested, neither is the board, in banning Terry Marsh because he's Terry Marsh. But if Terry Marsh has any possible disturbance of his nervous system, or any other boxer for that matter, whoever he may be, then he shouldn't be in the ring.
Tell us about the actual fight yourself that you're planning on March the 4th.
Well, it's a European IVF title fight for the vacant European title. It's a fight, well, after that fight, assuming I'm successful, at welterweight, which is a weight above my original weight, I'll be moving down to light welterweight to get a rating, and negotiations are being taken place at the moment, although very tentative, with regards to fighting the winner of Hector Camacho and Ray Mancini, who are fighting for the WBO vacant title 3 days later on March the 7th.
Terry Marsh, a situation that would be laughable if it wasn't so potentially serious. Well, another story from boxing that is racked with controversy and could prove to have serious repercussions is reflected in the front pages of a couple of papers I have here, the Mirror and the Sun. Unfair cop, Nigel Benn, in the middle of it because he mistakenly has been used in a photo fit by the police. Well, Nigel has just joined us in the studio. He's talking now with Tony Francis.
Nigel, this sounds almost unbelievable. What happened when this chap tried to make a citizen's arrest?
Well, I didn't know what was happening. And he was shouting out, "I've got the gunman, I've got the gunman." And I'm looking around, and he's on top of me. And I threw him off, and he tried to grab me. And I had to punch him to get him off of me.
Where was this happening?
On the Romford Road.
He's a very brave man to have a go, wasn't he?
I thought he was a bit crazy or something. And then some people started running towards me. And so I got on my bike.
Did they know who you were?
Well, they couldn't have, no. Well, they saw the description in the paper.
And you'd no idea this photograph had appeared?
I didn't know what was going on until I got home.
Well, you've injured your hand, haven't you? Let's have a look at the knuckle.
That's my knuckle where...
That's quite a blow.
Yeah, and it's killing
Is that where
me.
you hit him, or did he hit you?
Well, I think his back of his head fell onto my fist.
Is that going to heal up in 2 weeks? Because that's when you're due to fight and defend your title.
Well, I hope so.
Do you think it will?
I'm not too sure. It is killing me. It's got a lot of fluid on there now. But
how did this come about? I mean, how did the police come to use a photograph of you
I don't know.
as a wanted gunman?
Well, they said it was a photo fit, you know, and it's not a photo fit because it's just a photograph of me. And if I ever drew a woolly hat on me, I'll put some hair on me, and you know, I'm livid. I can't believe it.
Where do you go now? Apparently you're going to sue the Met, aren't you, and the newspaper, is that right?
That's what my solicitor is going for, because since then, you know, my fight can be out for 2-3 months now.
What have the police said to you, anything?
They haven't spoken to me. To tell the truth, I don't really want to speak to them. Speak to my solicitor.
So you've no idea how it came about, how
No.
they came to use a photograph of you
I
and
don't.
draw
Well,
a big fringe on it and put it in as a gunman?
Well, that's it. Well, I'll leave that all down to my solicitor, and hopefully we'll get some answers by tomorrow. You know, but I'm definitely taking that call, that's for sure.
It wasn't just one attack on you either, was it?
No, it was the first one with a big attack, but everyone else, they saw me, you know, and they were pointing, and were saying, "Look, this is, I couldn't believe it." You know,
You're used to autograph hunters, aren't you? But not citizen's arrest.
No, not citizen's arrest. I can't handle that.
All right, Nigel, I hope that does heal up, and we'll see what transpires tomorrow. Thanks for coming in.
Okay.
Thanks, Nigel.